Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Going to spend some time with my friend Marcus Wagner, and he's with a great company called Act 2. He's been on the show before, and he's actually a regular Price of Business contributor. Hard to get because he's running off to places like Hawaii. I heard you just recently went. How did that go for you?
It did great. My first time to Hawaii. It's a beautiful place. I recommend it if you haven't been there. And we did a software demo for a prospective customer. It went well.
Yeah. Did you have enough sense to add a couple of days between the work part?
Absolutely. Yeah. Had to tack on a couple of days. It's a long flight from Houston, 8 hours.
Yeah. It really is. It's incredible. Yeah. It's
beautiful place, though.
It's like going to Europe, you know. It's incredible. And I've never been. My wife's been on business. I haven't been, but it appears beautiful, and I envy you. But I always say, whenever I have business trips in San Francisco, I always add 4 days, either on the front or the end, or both, two each way. Talk a little bit about Act 2. It's been a while since we've had you on. Kind of give us your elevator speech.
Sure. Well, Kevin, we help finance and accounting departments in small and medium-sized companies add strategic value to the business instead of just being an admin function. And we do that by selling accounting software, helping them implement that. And we also outsource a lot of the accounting processes.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the benefits of a cloud-based accounting software.
Well, one of the huge benefits is being in the cloud means you can access it from anywhere. So CFOs don't have to come into the office to run reports or write checks. Employees can do their expense reports from anywhere. They could be in Hawaii doing their expense report like I was doing last week. But the other thing about being in the cloud is that the software can be updated on a constant basis with input from the customers. And so it just keeps getting better and better instead of the old days where you bought a piece of software, you installed it, and 5 years later you look at it and it looks old and clunky. But it's a pain to upgrade.
Yeah, that is the advantage of the cloud. Those updates that they send in the old days, software updates that they would send, it's often like putting a wrench in your system.
Yep.
Literally all the years of work you put in there, having a wrench thrown in there, and it's like, really? It'd be better to have paper and pen to do this.
Yep. And you worry about, is this going to break, the things that are working in my system today? A lot of companies have customizations and things that they put in to make it work for them, and then they go and do the upgrade, and it breaks, and they end up spending thousands of dollars with consultants to come in and try to fix it.
Do you have any idea the percentage of people who use software versus the cloud?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's different schools of thought. The cloud really started in the world of customer relationship management or CRM software, sales software, and that market segment is pretty well saturated with companies like Salesforce that are online. It then moved into the HR world, HR software, payroll. Tons of companies now, I'm sure a lot of the listeners out there outsource their payroll. But the accounting and finance area has been kind of the last frontier for companies to move to the cloud. And we think that somewhere between 10 and 20% of small and medium companies have moved to the cloud so far, which means that, potentially 80% of those companies are still going to move over the next few years. And we think that in the next 7 years or so, we're going to see about an 80% saturation rate.
I'm impressed by the 10 to 20%, to be honest with you, because it's been part of a paradigm shift. It really has.
And it's snowballing. It really is. We're seeing it snowball. We've been doing this for about almost 5 years now. And back 5 years ago, those were sometimes tough conversations to get people past, how does it work? Is it secure? I don't really understand it. To today, a lot more people are aware of it and what it can do. And Kevin, what I really wanted to talk about today is the benefits that a lot of our customers are realizing from moving to the cloud. Yeah,
kind of give us that inventory, if you will.
Well, so the first thing that I think is important is that a lot of companies don't realize the huge availability of automation that's out there today. It used to be that only large companies could have process automation, reporting, and analytics tools because it cost a ton of money. But now in the cloud, a lot of those tools are available for a fraction of the cost. And the other thing we're seeing is companies don't really understand what it's truly costing them. And mostly it's in the form of employees who are expensive and go on vacation or quit or can be unreliable. We all make mistakes because we're, human. And once we open their eyes to, hey, here's what it's costing you to do this process manually, they start to realize, geez, maybe there's a better way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
that makes perfect sense. Absolutely.
Process automation, better access to analytics and data and insights into their business. Sometimes companies even increase their revenue by implementing automation because they don't realize they've got missed billings or they've got revenue leakage. They're performing services or selling products to customers that they're not even actually billing them for. So there's a myriad of typical benefits out there.
Yeah. I guess it's probably a really great way to ascertain, when your hard months are, when your hard quarters are, maybe even begin to figure out some of the patterns as to why those revenue changes take place, those type of things as well.
Yeah, and maybe there's products and services, or maybe there's customers that they have that are unprofitable, but they don't really realize that because they don't have the sophisticated analytics that they could have. And again, one of the things that I try to coach my customers or my prospective customers is, how much does an employee truly cost you? A qualified accounting person, even a low-level accountant, is going to cost about $50,000 a year, but that's just base comp. So if you factor in vacation, holidays, payroll taxes, and all of that, you're probably looking at more like $75,000 a year per employee. And so when I start analyzing, okay, you've got 2, 3, 5, 10 people in your accounting department. Let's look at how many of those are doing unnecessary manual processes. It really doesn't take long for the software to pay for itself. And typically the payback period is about 6 months, honestly, from the time they do the investment in an implementation to the time it starts paying for itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those are very important, absolutely crucial benefits, and obviously just a smarter way of doing things. And I'm assuming once you get in front of a decision maker, people are pretty attracted to this.
They absolutely are, and I think a lot of times, the CEO level, they get it. If you, it's all about the business case, right? If you can present the business case to say we can do things better, faster, cheaper, get better data on what's going on in our business, they buy into it. Sometimes the folks that are actually running the accounting department or doing some of those processes are in the weeds, obviously. And accountants, if you look at the number of hours that people put in a typical business, it seems like accountants always are the ones that are working overtime because they've got so much, the deadline-driven processes and they've got a lot of manual things going on. But most of our clients realize that it's going to make their day easier, and they're actually going to be able to go home at the end of the day at a reasonable hour and not have to work weekends just to produce financial statements or whatever they're trying to do.
Seems like a CPA firms would love what you do, and actually make it a part of what they do in lieu of hiring low-end accountants. Tons
of CPA firms now are realizing the benefits of the cloud and moving a lot of the processes they do to the cloud, and also recommending that their customers adopt cloud-based accounting software.
Mm-hmm. It makes perfect sense to me. Any final thoughts, by the way, for the listeners? ACT2.com. That's ACCTTWO.com.
Yeah, I would just say if you haven't looked at it in detail, do an analysis of your total cost of ownership of your accounting processes, your accounting software, and that includes the IT infrastructure and the support costs to run those systems, and ask yourself, is there a better way to do it? Because there probably is.
Yeah. And what would you say is the sweet spot for you as far as clientele?
We work with small and medium-sized companies that are under, say, $500 million in revenue. Probably our most common customer is a $50 million privately held company that's looking to grow. And as they're trying to grow, they're having to add more and more headcount. And that's the other thing we do, is not necessarily reduce current headcount, but help them grow and do more with the same team and not have to constantly hire a larger and larger accounting department.
Into verticals?
Verticals would include software and technology companies, not-for-profits, everything from churches to public charities and things like that, and as well as services-based companies, whether that's professional services, industrial services, even oil field services companies. Those are good sweet spots for us.
Yeah, sounds very, very good. I appreciate your time, Marcus Wagner. Again, ACT2, that's ACCT2TWO.com. He's a regular contributor here on The Price of Business. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
You bet. When we come back, much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here does show up over there at usdatareview.com. You're listening to The Price of Business.